Hey everybody, welcome to Journey Through the Generations, and we have a very special episode for you today. We have someone on that's going to interview us, which is this is the first time we've ever interviewed anybody.
Yes, that is correct. It's usually just me and you, and we're usually just talking about things that we've done, places we've been, reflections, and things like that. So this one I'm super excited about.
Yeah, so it's crazy because we have someone on, a special guest, but we're not interviewing him. He's interviewing us. So this is a little different.
It is. And maybe we'll interview him someday.
So we're bringing on our son, Wesley. Hey, Wesley.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
We are glad that you decided to be on the podcast with us because we talk about you sometimes on the podcast.
So I've heard.
Have you really heard that? Like, you listened to it?
Only once, yeah.
Well, this is really interesting because I don't think you remember a time when I wasn't researching, because I started in 2011. So you were what, 8 or 9 years old?
Yeah, around that
time. So I've been researching the majority of your life. So I don't think that you remember a time when I wasn't going to the library or researching our family.
Yeah, whenever I felt conscious in my life, even though I felt conscious all of my life, you were researching a lot besides, the job that you have or had at the time, and, going through other jobs. And when you started genealogy, you were constantly researching almost 24/7.
So let us tell you a little bit about Wesley. Of course, like I mentioned, he is our son, our only child. He's almost 19 years old, and he enjoys working on videos like most kids, also playing video games, and he's working now. So we're proud of him. He's done with school, so... Anything else you want to add?
One thing is, I'm so glad I'm done with school. I tell that to everyone who asks me, how are you feeling after graduating? I'm like, I feel amazing because I don't have to go anymore.
And don't forget, you have a YouTube channel, so give them your YouTube page so anybody who wants to can go check out your stuff.
I am actually in the middle of rebranding my channel. I made a decision, like a month or two ago, that the content that I've created in like the past 3 years or so has not been something that I've liked. So I decided, let's just start brand new and we'll go from there.
But you don't have a name for it yet?
Not yet.
Okay. All right.
Well, I do have a name, but I don't want to, I don't want to put it out there yet.
Yep, that's fine. All right, so we're going to stop talking, and we're going to let Wesley ask us questions, and then we'll just go from there. All right?
All right.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, go for it.
Are you ready for these questions?
Yes.
That is not part of the interview. I'm just wondering.
No, I'm not ready because I have no idea what kind of questions you have.
They are not, they're not crazy. They're not crazy, I promise. I came up with 4 big questions that have to do with genealogy. So this first question is mainly to Mom because she started family researching before you, Dad. But this is also a question towards both of you. So Mom, you've been researching our family history for a good number of years now, and you've traveled across the country to see what you can find. First question is, have you ever wanted to go out of the country and continue your research, like go to Africa or Europe?
Absolutely. I would love to be able to trace my roots back to Africa. That's originally kind of how I started. I read the book Roots by Alex Haley when I was 12 years old with my granny, and ever since then, I've always wanted to go to Africa. And then once I got into genealogy and I started researching, that was a goal of mine, was to be able to trace my roots back to Africa. So I would love to do that.
So go international with it. I think it's really cool what you're doing, and I like that you're branching outside of, where we are to different states, but, thinking about, oh, would you ever want to go to another country to see? Because we've been international a few times.
Right.
And I was wondering, ever since our cruise to Mexico, I was wondering, I wonder if Mom has ever thought about going outside of the state again to see if she can find more.
Yes, that is definitely a dream of mine. So, and I know your dad wants to do some research out of the country as well.
Yeah, of course I want to go to Africa because I would love to explore my African roots. That's going to be a long time off for me, but I have a desire to go to Scotland. And the reason that is because the side of the branch of the tree that I'm researching right now, or I should be researching right now. But anyway, I think that it's taking us to Scotland. I haven't made the connection yet, but with some of the things that I've found so far, I believe that it's going to get me to Scotland. And once I can do that, then I would like to go there and research more.
That's cool. And Mom, I know you resigned with, is it Roots? Is that a film or a TV show?
It's a TV show based off the book.
Okay, yeah. So I know you reside with that TV show a lot. I remember one year you watched it like once a month. You were watching it a lot.
Yes, sometimes when I need inspiration or I need to feel like I'm in a rut and I need to do better with my research, it inspires me. So I do watch Roots a lot.
Very nice, very nice. All right, question number 2 I have. How long do you plan to continue your genealogy research with the number of experience you have and how long you've been doing it for?
Well, luckily, genealogy is very fluid. So the more you research, the more you're able to find. And the more you find, the more questions you get. And then you have questions that you need to find answers to. So as long as I am researching and find new questions about our family, I'll be researching. This is something that I'm very passionate about. I feel like this is my legacy that I want to leave to you and my nephews and the rest of the family. So as far back as I can go, I will. And if there's ever a point where I don't think I can go anymore, I will just spend my time helping other people research their families.
Speaking of relatives, you mentioned your nephews. Have you talked to them about your research? I know you have, but have you ever asked them if they wanted to join you in that journey?
I have 3 nephews. One is almost 28, one is 25, and one is 14. So I try to meet them where they are. I have one that really recently got into photographs, and he helped me build a photo book of some of my family photos. And then the oldest one, he's in video production. And so my goal someday is for him to follow me around in libraries and things like that and make a mini documentary and things like that.
I think that'll be a very nice film to see and to watch. And Dad, you started recently, like a few years ago, I would say.
Yeah.
How long do you plan on continuing your research?
I think it's a lifelong thing, not for everybody. I mean, some people, get to a certain point and they stop, and that's totally up to everybody's, up to them when they want to stop. But I think I'll keep going as long as I can. I can't say, but exactly a number of years, but I think it's probably going to be a lifelong journey for me.
Okay. And another relative question that has to do with this. Do you plan on trying to get your younger niece and nephew to join you at some point during your research?
Yeah, my side of the family, they're interested, but not interested enough to actually do any research. So my brother, he actually started doing our family research first, and Trisha was helping him find some names, and then he stopped. I don't know why. I think maybe it got too difficult, or I guess I shouldn't say too difficult. Maybe it was just more than what he thought it was gonna be, and so Trisha started doing some research on our family, and then I've told this story before. I went to Roots Tech in 2019 for the first time, not going for the genealogy part, going for the technology part, because we had just started the podcast and YouTube channel and all that other stuff. And so, and I was working for the conference, for the society too. But anyway, when we left there, I looked at Trisha on the airplane and said, I think I want to start researching my family. And so it's the genealogy bug is what they say. It bit me, and I got, really in it and wanting to do it. I do wish my family on my side of the family would be involved, but I'm certainly not going to try to force anyone to do it. I think that's a problem that a lot of people have, is they try to force people to be involved in everything, and that's just never going to work. So, yeah, I would like them to, but, who knows if they're going to want to. Trisha and our goal right now with this channel, with this podcast we're doing, is to encourage younger people to genealogy. Because if you go to a genealogy event, it skews higher older people, right?
Older than us,
mm-hmm. Right? And so it's good to try to get, younger people involved, because the older we get, everyone becomes an ancestor, right? Meaning everyone passes away. The younger people are going to have to come behind us and continue researching, because I may not find everything about my family, in my lifetime. And so that's when we're going to want people like you, your cousins, my brothers and sister and whatever, to be more involved and do the research. And so that's why Mom always says when she has her stuff, she wants to leave it to you. She wants to leave it to Alan and Eric and whoever else to be able to pick up where she left off.
Okay.
I know that was a lot, but
it's a podcast.
But yeah, I talk a lot, so
that's fine.
It is.
I talk a lot too, and I get that from you. All right.
Yes.
So question number 3, for both of you, but we'll start off with Mom. When were you first interested in genealogy? And now I think about it, Dad just answered that question.
Yeah.
So this is mainly towards you. When were you first? When and what was the reason for you being interested in genealogy at first?
Well, honestly, that it's kind of a 3-part answer. Like I said earlier, I read Roots by Alex Haley when I was 12 years old with my granny during the summer. And that made me love history. It made me love Black history. And that made me want to read more books. And I didn't know at the time that I was reading about family history and genealogy. I just knew that he was telling the story of his family. And then fast forward to when I was in college, I was a health science major. And one year, one of the classes I took, a project was to build a family tree, but to put in the family tree not just their names and dates of their birth, but also any health issues that they had, or if they were deceased, what health issues they died from. So that was actually when I built my first family tree, was in college. And I remember I had to call my mom and dad back home and get information, because I didn't know anybody past my grandparents. Well, that's not true. I knew my great grandmother, just one of them, because she died when I was in high school. But other than that, I didn't know anybody's names. And so I was able to go back 4 generations on that health family tree that I did for that class in college. And then fast forward to 2010, 2011. I know you don't remember this, but we were at Little Papa's house visiting, and he had a book of pictures or a box of pictures that we were going through, and you kept asking, who is this person and where is this person live now, and why don't we ever see this person anymore? You just had all these questions about the pictures and the people in the pictures, and I didn't know the answers, and my dad didn't know a lot of the answers. And so I decided then that I needed to start researching our family so I could get more names for you if you ever wanted to know more about your family. So that's kind of how I actually started researching.
I do remember a little bit of that, you know, like asking, oh, who's this? Where are they now? I asked that a lot with like not just celebrities, but with just people in general.
Right, yeah.
Like if I know them for like a good number of months and then they just disappear, where did they go? What's going on? And all that. But I like that.
Yeah, so that's how I started.
All right, then. All right. And for that, inspiration just hit him right in the face. So
Literally.
Yeah, it did. And Roots Tech was so fun. And it was inspiring to hear all the stories and stuff. So, you know, if you're out there listening and you've never been to Roots Tech, I would say this year you definitely want to go because it's a virtual event and it's for everybody. So there's really no excuse unless you don't have a computer, and that's a different story. If you don't have a computer, go to the library, go do something. And then, but attend, and then when they go back to in-person conferences, go to Salt Lake City because it's a whole totally different feeling. And yeah, that's why I really like it. It's good. And we're going to have a special announcement about Roots Tech coming up on the podcast really soon, so stay tuned for that.
Nice plug. Speaking of Roots Tech or something like that, my last question for this is, did you ever think you would make it this far on your journey to where you're able to represent yourself and more so on a bigger scale, like go to conventions, start a podcast, maybe even get sponsors for stuff like that? Did you ever think about like you putting yourself out there and people actually, you know, listening and wanting more and wanting to hear your point of view on stuff?
When I say I never thought in a million years I would have a blog and I would write about going to the library and looking at census records, and people would actually read and comment and be engaged in what I was writing about, I had no idea. And when Phillip first wanted to start this podcast, I was totally against it because I'm not a public speaker. I don't like talking. I don't like listening to my voice. And I kept thinking, who wants to hear about us going to conventions and things that we find out in libraries? So the fact that we have a blog, we have a podcast, we have a YouTube channel, but not only that, we have people who faithfully listen to us and read the blog on a regular basis. And it just blows my mind, all of the words of encouragement, strangers, people that I've never met, give us about the things that we're doing and how many people we've been able to reach. It's just, it's mind blowing.
Nice. Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because I came from a different part of this, right? I came in with not caring one single thing about family research or history or anything like that. I didn't care. I shouldn't say I didn't care. I care because it is. I know that it is important and all that stuff. I get that. I just didn't have an interest in it. And so I came from an aspect of that Trisha was researching and she wanted to do a family history book for her family. And my thing was, well, you know, if this is something that we want to do outside the family and maybe she wants to write, you know, something about how she did her research and who she found and whatever, then we need people to know about it so they can buy it. you know.
Right.
And so I was like, well, we can do that with the blog. So I set up Mama's blog, and then the podcast came, and then Roots Tech came, and then all this other stuff started coming along, and it's just, I didn't expect all this stuff to happen, and we're not big time in the genealogy world by far. I mean, there's some huge names out there that we can't touch, but we have a group of people who listen faithfully, who read faithfully. We appreciate them all the time. And we hope that more people would listen, and we get a sponsor, like you said, and we continue to grow, and we get people who want to be guests on our podcast and all those different kinds of things. So yeah, I mean, I never thought that it would be like this at all. We didn't do it to try to be famous or anything.
Right.
But boy, when you get that first person who say, "Oh, I listened to your podcast" or something like that, it's different. I mean, when we were in Salt Lake City in 2020, I believe, and we were walking, we got there early, and we were just walking around looking, and we had our T-shirts on. They had Journey Through the Generations, and there was a guy who stopped us and said, "Are you Phillip and Trisha?" And it was like, yeah.
You know that?
He said, "I listen to y'all all the time."
I screamed.
I can see that.
So anyway, that kind of stuff is encouraging, and
building up a fan base of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we wasn't doing it for that reason.
It just comes naturally.
But it comes with it. The more successful you become and more people listen, that just happens. But our goal is to encourage people to start researching. So that's the goal, especially younger folks. So.
Yeah, I think what you two are doing is really cool. I think it's awesome. I think it's motivating and inspiring for others, for people around my age, a little bit older, a little bit younger, to maybe dive in genealogy. I think it's really cool.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for your questions. I hope that you learned something new today. And I just want to say that I just want you to know that we do this because we want you to know your family. We want you to understand how important your history is. And we just want you to be happy and know who you are.
For sure. And, when we research, we find interesting things. We always share with you, right? Things we find. We know not everything is going to be, nice and rosy and pretty, especially with African American research. We're going to get to a point to where we get to the ugly stuff. And so, but that's where we came from. Those are our ancestors. And, they, went through hard things like slavery and racism and all these different things. It's important to know that. And so that's why, we always tell you about the things that we find in our research. So I think you did a real good job. Great questions. I'm glad that you wanted to do this. It wasn't our idea.
Yeah, I just came up to Mom one day, said, "Mom, the more I think about it, I kind of want to be a guest on a podcast, because lately I've been listening to a few podcasts, and I think they're really cool, and it's cool that you can just sit down and just talk about whatever, and I'm a part of that, and I really like it. And I think last school year, my senior year, I was taking a video production class, and my group, we actually started a podcast. I forgot what it was called, but it didn't last long. It only lasted like 2-3 episodes. But that experience of just sitting down with people and just talking about whatever, I like that, and I do that all the time. But but being able to record it and have people listen to it and possibly relate to it, people laugh with you and just they nod their head and all of that. I think that's really cool, and I think podcasts are underrated. I think so.
Well, a lot of people are doing them, and a lot of people are listening, and it's big time, and it's still growing. So
yeah,
we got a office here full of equipment. So if you want to, do a podcast, it's here. So
yeah.
All right, good. Trisha, you have anything else before we go?
No, that's all.
All right, everybody. We really appreciate you for joining us. Thank you, Wesley, for coming in. We threw a little bit of a wrench in there, right? We got our first guest, but he actually interviewed us, so we think that's pretty cool. But if you enjoyed this, please go and let us know on our social media. All of our links will be down in the description of this episode. Check out the blog, journeythroughthegenerations.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter. We have a YouTube channel that we really need to get going on again. Share with your family, your friends, anyone who's interested in family research and genealogy. And I think that's it. So we'll talk to you guys later. Take care and be safe.